Jack O'Connell's boots crunched against the gravel as he navigated the sprawling scrapyard just outside New Eden, a decaying industrial town long abandoned by prosperity. The air carried a metallic tang, thick with the scent of rust and oil. Rows of discarded machines and forgotten vehicles stretched into the horizon, silent monuments to a bygone era of industry and innovation. For Jack, this graveyard of technology was both a solace and a curse. Once, he'd been a sought-after mechanic, a wizard with tools who could coax life from even the most stubborn engines. But the world moved on, favoring automated repair drones over human ingenuity. Unemployed and teetering on the edge of despair, Jack had made the scrapyard his sanctuary. Every day, he wandered its maze of junk, salvaging parts to tinker with, hoping to reclaim some sense of purpose. Today felt different. As he climbed a precarious mound of twisted metal, his eyes caught something unusual, a glint of silver in the sunlight, almost too polished for the grimy surroundings. His pulse quickened as he slid down the heap and approached the object. At first glance, it seemed like a piece of industrial equipment, a large, contorted shape with intricate grooves and lines. But as Jack cleared away the surrounding debris, the object's true form became clear. It was a hand. A massive, mechanical hand. The structure was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. It wasn't just the size, though that alone was staggering. The design was alien literally. The metal shimmered with a texture that shifted subtly in the light, and strange glyphs ran along its surface, glowing faintly as if powered by an internal energy source. Jack crouched beside the hand, running his fingers over the glyphs. "What in the hell are you?" he muttered, half expecting it to respond. He could feel the craftsmanship in every inch of the material, the seamless joints, and the almost organic flow of its design. This wasn't junk, it was a masterpiece, crafted by something or someone far beyond human capability. After a moment of awe, the mechanic in Jack took over. He examined the joints, the wiring, and the faint traces of circuitry visible beneath the surface. It was damaged, but not irreparably so. His mind raced with possibilities. Was it part of some secret government experiment? An extraterrestrial artifact? Whatever it was a challenge, and Jack never could resist a challenge. Using a makeshift winch and a lot of elbow grease, Jack managed to haul the hand back to his workshop on the edge of town. The ramshackle building, packed with salvaged parts and half-finished projects, suddenly felt inadequate for the task ahead. But Jack wasn't deterred. He spent the next few days poring over the hand, cataloging every detail. The glyphs seemed to pulse faintly when touched, and the inner workings defied every principle of engineering he understood. There was no power source he could identify, yet faint currents of energy ran through the circuits. One evening, after hours of tinkering, Jack leaned back in his chair, exhaustion creeping in. He stared at the hand, now cleaned and partially repaired. "You're not just a machine," he said softly, his voice tinged with wonder. "You're something more." That night, he dreamed of a colossal figure, a titan standing tall amidst a battlefield of stars, its silhouette framed by explosions and streaks of light. The hand in his workshop wasn't just a relic, it was a piece of a greater whole. When Jack woke the next morning, he was more determined than ever. If this hand was just the beginning, he had to know what it was part of. And if he was right, if this really was the remnant of some alien titan, then fixing it wasn't just an opportunity. It was his purpose. Jack's workshop buzzed with activity, a symphony of clanks, whirs, and the occasional hiss of steam. Tools and parts were scattered across every surface, the chaos somehow reflecting the intensity of Jack's focus. The alien hand, now partially restored, dominated the center of the room, its metallic surface gleaming under the harsh light of work lamps. The deeper Jack delved into its inner workings, the more he realized how advanced the hand's design was. The joints and servos weren't just mechanical, they seemed alive, made of an alloy that adapted to stress and wear in real time. Every circuit was a miniature marvel, more sophisticated than anything Earth's engineers could dream of. Jack's first major breakthrough came after nearly a week of sleepless nights. He'd managed to trace the faint energy currents within the hand and discovered a dormant power core. It was depleted but intact. If he could recharge it, the hand might function again. However, the core required an energy source unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Earth's power systems were too crude. "Think, Jack, think," he muttered to himself, pacing the workshop. His eyes landed on a corner of the room where an old plasma cutter sat gathering dust. It used high-energy plasma arcs, and while it was ancient tech by modern standards, it might just do the trick. He spent hours rigging a makeshift power transfer system, his hands moving with practiced precision. By the time he was ready to test it, night had fallen. The workshop was silent except for the faint hum of the improvised setup. "Here goes nothing," Jack said, holding his breath as he flipped the switch. The plasma cutter roared to life, its energy redirected into the hand's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the glyphs along the hand's surface began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter, casting the room in an otherworldly light. Jack's heart raced as the hand twitched, its massive fingers curling slightly before relaxing again. "Yes. You're alive," Jack exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement. The hand's movements were smooth, almost graceful, as if testing its own range of motion. Jack was awestruck. He'd just revived a piece of alien technology, a feat no one on Earth could claim. The hand's activation wasn't without consequences. The energy surge caused the glyphs to emit a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the walls of the workshop. Lights flickered, and Jack's equipment sputtered, overwhelmed by the alien energy. Then, as suddenly as it began, the hum subsided, leaving only the soft glow of the glyphs. Jack cautiously approached the hand, which now rested motionless once more. "What are you trying to tell me?" he whispered, tracing the glowing symbols with his fingers. They seemed to shift under his touch, rearranging into patterns that defied comprehension. It was as if the hand were communicating, though in a language Jack couldn't yet understand. In the following days, Jack documented everything. He recorded videos of the hand's movements, took detailed notes on its structure, and uploaded his findings to an online forum for enthusiasts of alien tech. The response was overwhelming. His videos went viral, drawing attention from curious viewers, conspiracy theorists, and even a few researchers claiming to have studied similar artifacts. Among the flood of comments and messages, one stood out. A researcher named Dr. Elena Vasquez, an expert in exoengineering, reached out with a simple but tantalizing message: "You've found a Titan. Contact me immediately." Jack's heart raced as he read the message. Titans were the stuff of legend, massive, sentient machines created by advanced civilizations, capable of incredible feats. If this was truly part of a Titan, then his discovery wasn't just significant, it was historic. He called Dr. Vasquez that night. She explained that her team had been studying Titan relics for years, piecing together fragments found across the galaxy. According to her, the hand matched descriptions of a Titan named Aegis, a guardian from an ancient interstellar war. Aegis had disappeared millennia ago, its remains scattered and forgotten. "Jack," Elena said, her voice steady but urgent, "if you've activated even a fraction of Aegis's power, you're sitting on something more valuable and more dangerous than you can imagine. You need to find the rest of it." Jack leaned back in his chair, the weight of her words sinking in. The hand was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, the rest of Aegis was waiting to be found, and Jack knew he couldn't stop now. Jack's name was suddenly everywhere. His online videos of the alien Titan hand, the glowing glyphs, the smooth movements, the eerie hum of its activation had become an internet phenomenon. News outlets picked up the story, labeling him as everything from a genius mechanic to a reckless conspiracy theorist. His once quiet workshop now had a constant buzz of activity. Packages arrived daily, supplies from supporters, complex tools from universities, and unsolicited gadgets from eccentric hobbyists hoping to be part of the phenomenon. Jack even received sponsorship offers from tech companies, all eager to associate their brand with his groundbreaking discovery. Amidst the chaos, Jack stayed focused. The attention was flattering, but he had one goal: find the rest of Aegis. Dr. Elena Vasquez had become his primary collaborator, and their nightly calls were a lifeline of information and strategy. "You've done something incredible, Jack," Elena said one evening, her face pixelated slightly on the holographic monitor in his workshop. "But activating the hand might have sent a signal. If Aegis has other components nearby, or worse, if someone dangerous is searching for them, it could bring unwanted attention." Jack nodded. "I've thought about that." The way the glyphs shifted, it didn't feel random. It felt like a call. Elena's expression turned grave. "Then we need to move fast. There are fragments of Titans scattered across Earth. The hand might be a key to locating them. If we can find the core Aegis's heart, it could lead us to the rest." Using the hand's glyphs as a guide, Elena and her team helped Jack develop a makeshift scanner. It wasn't perfect, but it pulsed faintly whenever it was near other Titan artifacts. With it in hand, Jack set out, leaving his workshop for the first time in weeks. Jack's journey was both exhilarating and grueling. The scanner led him to desolate places: an old quarry, an underwater cave, the ruins of a forgotten military installation. Each new location held its own challenges, from unstable terrain to hostile wildlife, but Jack's determination never wavered. In the quarry, he found a section of Aegis's torso, partially buried beneath layers of sediment. Its chest plate bore the same glowing glyphs as the hand, and when Jack powered it up, the glyphs lit in unison, pulsing like a heartbeat. The underwater cave held a fragment of Aegis's head, its single eye cracked, but still emitting a faint glow. The glyphs on the head matched those on the torso, and when Jack linked the two pieces, they synchronized, emitting a powerful wave of energy that nearly fried his scanner. Each discovery brought Jack closer to completing Aegis, but it also attracted more attention. Local authorities, curious onlookers, and even private security teams began appearing at his dig sites. Rumors swirled that governments and corporations were monitoring his progress, eager to claim the Titan for themselves. Back in his workshop, Jack worked tirelessly to integrate the new parts. The torso and head were now connected to the hand, forming a crude but impressive assembly. The pieces weren't just dormant machinery, they seemed to resonate with one another, their glyphs glowing brighter as more of Aegis was restored. One night, as Jack adjusted the connections between the torso and the hand, the Titan's head flickered to life. Its single eye glowed a piercing blue, and a deep, resonant voice filled the workshop. Designation: Aegis. Core functions compromised. Systems at 27%. Initiating diagnostic. Jack froze, his tools clattering to the floor. He wasn't expecting Aegis to speak or to be operational at all. The voice continued, growing steadier. Operator identified. Rebuilding sequence detected. Core directive: safeguard. Complete restoration required. Additional components necessary for activation. Jack's heart pounded. You're alive?" The head swiveled slightly, its glowing eye locking onto Jack. "Alive. Damaged. Assistance required. Do you comply?" Jack swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yeah, I comply." The glyphs across the assembled parts flared briefly, and the Titan's voice softened. "You have chosen to continue restoration. Aegis thanks you. Caution advised, hostile forces detected. Coordinates for remaining components provided." Before Jack could respond, his computer monitor flickered, displaying a holographic map. A series of glowing markers appeared, locations scattered across the globe. "Jack?" Elena's voice crackled over his communicator, startling him. "What's going on?" "I just got a massive energy spike from your location." "I think Aegis is awake," Jack said, staring at the map. "And it just gave me a treasure map for the rest of it." The excitement was short-lived. Later that night, Jack spotted drones circling his workshop, their red lights flashing ominously in the darkness. The internet chatter had brought more than just fans, it had brought threats. A shadowy private military company, rumored to hunt down alien tech, had taken notice. Jack turned to Aegis's glowing components. "Looks like I'm not the only one interested in putting you back together," he muttered. Aegis's voice responded, calm but resolute. "Hostile entities identified. Defensive measures required. Completion of restoration imperative. Operator's survival critical." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "No pressure, huh?" The race to restore Aegis was no longer just about discovery, it was about survival. The Titan was coming back to life, and Jack was determined to finish what he'd started, no matter the cost. Jack's workshop had become a fortress. After the first few drones appeared, he knew he had to act quickly. Reinforcements weren't far behind. His earlier fame had turned into a liability, drawing not only admirers but those who sought to claim or destroy Aegis. The Titan was no longer a marvel of engineering, it was a target. The map Aegis had provided led Jack to the final component, the Titan's core. The journey was perilous. Jack navigated remote jungles, icy tundras, and hostile checkpoints, evading detection with the help of Dr. Elena Vasquez and a growing network of supporters. The final piece was hidden deep beneath an abandoned research facility in Siberia, surrounded by layers of automated defenses and decades of decay. The core was a sphere of pulsating energy, encased in a protective shell covered in the same glowing glyphs as the other parts. Extracting it triggered an alarm, and Jack barely escaped with his life. But he had it. With the core in hand, Aegis was nearly complete. Back at the workshop, Jack worked through the night, connecting the core to the assembled parts of the Titan. The glyphs flared to life with a brilliance that bathed the entire workshop in light. A low hum resonated as the components synchronized, forming a single, cohesive entity. Aegis's body was now mostly intact, towering over Jack like a god of metal and light. Elena's voice came through his headset, urgent and breathless. "Jack, I'm picking up massive energy readings from your location. You've done it, haven't you?" Jack grinned, despite the exhaustion etched into his face. "Yeah, Elena. Aegis is back." "Then you need to hurry," Elena warned. "Satellite feeds show an entire convoy heading your way. They're not here to talk." Jack looked up at Aegis, its single eye glowing brighter than ever. "Aegis," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "It's now or never. Can you defend yourself?" Aegis's deep voice responded, stronger and more articulate than before. "Systems operational. Defensive protocols engaged. Operator, evaluate to a safe distance." Jack hesitated. "I didn't put you back together just to leave you behind. If we're doing this, we do it together." For a moment, there was silence. Then, Aegis spoke again, its tone almost warm. "Acknowledged. Operator designation, ally. Engaging full activation sequence. Prepare for engagement." The assault began minutes later. Black-clad soldiers and advanced combat drones swarmed the workshop, their weapons trained on Aegis. Jack scrambled to defend himself, using makeshift barricades and repurposed tech as cover. But it was Aegis who turned the tide. With a deafening roar, Aegis surged to life. Its massive limbs moved with fluid precision, swatting drones from the sky and disabling vehicles with bursts of energy. The glyphs along its body glowed in rhythmic patterns, each pulse releasing shockwaves that disoriented the attackers. Jack watched in awe as Aegis shielded him from incoming fire, its massive arm sweeping aside a squad of soldiers like toys. The Titan wasn't just a machine, it was a protector. "Jack." Elena's voice crackled in his ear. "The energy Aegis is emitting, it's drawing attention from satellites. If you don't get out of there soon, you'll have the whole world on your back." Jack clenched his fists. "We can't run. If we don't stand our ground here, they'll just keep coming." Aegis's voice interrupted. "Operator's safety critical. Extraction sequence initiated. Prepare for relocation. Before Jack could protest, Aegis reached down, its massive hand gently enclosing him. A surge of energy surrounded them, and in a flash of light, they were gone. When Jack opened his eyes, he was no longer in his workshop. He stood on a hillside overlooking a vast, unfamiliar landscape. The air was clean, the sky filled with stars brighter than he'd ever seen. Aegis knelt beside him, its massive form casting a protective shadow. "Where are we?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Uninhabited region identified. Temporary sanctuary established," Aegis replied. "Operator, your efforts have restored this unit. Core directive, safeguard peace. Mission status, active. Will you join this purpose?" Jack looked up at the Titan, its glowing eye reflecting his own wearied but determined gaze. He thought about his life before the discovery of the dead-end jobs, the hopelessness and how everything had changed since he found the hand. He had purpose now, a chance to do something extraordinary. "Yeah," he said, nodding. "I'm in." Aegis rose to its full height, the ground trembling beneath its feet. "Acknowledged. Partnership confirmed. The galaxy awaits." As they set off into the unknown, Jack couldn't help but smile. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was an ally to a Titan, a guardian of peace, and an explorer of the stars. The journey was only beginning.